Hey guys, Digital Danner coming to you from my dining room. Sorry I'm not here today. Hope you guys all had a nice weekend. My weekend was all right, except for now I have an AC issue on top of my plumbing issue. So I am at home trying to sort that stuff out today. But no worries, we're going to get you guys up to date on what's happening today. I'm going to walk you through everything you've got to do. So please make sure that you are following the directions, that you're listening to Ms. Betts or whoever else might be in the room. I believe it's Ms. Betts today. Um, but let's get started here. We're going to do a geography lesson, and we're going to do a geography lesson pretty much every Monday. And I think you'll see real soon that there's a real need to learn some geography, some gaps in our understanding of the world. But we're going to fill those this year. We're going to learn lots of world geography and U.S. geography. We got a couple of steps to this today. The first step is going to be kind of a pretest. I want you guys to take out a sheet of paper, and I want you to take no more than 5 minutes to, from your memory, from your mind, draw the world. Draw the world. That's it. This is not a test, so you can't really get it wrong, so to speak. I just want to kind of see how you imagine the world without a map in front of you. Now, I know there's stuff around the room that you could probably look at, but again, this is not a test, right? So don't aim for, getting 100% correct here. I want you to try your best. So 5 minutes, I want you to pause this video for a second, and in that 5 minutes, I want you to draw the world map. And when you're done, we'll unpause and we'll move on to the next step. Ready? Go! Okay, so hopefully you guys have followed directions and you have drawn your maps. At this point, I would love for Ms. Betts or whoever the substitute is today to please go ahead and just let this video play in the background and Google an image of the world map, a world map. It doesn't really matter which one you pick on, but I want the students to be able to see what their world map looks like compared to what an actual world map looks like. And hopefully, you guys see a real need to learn some geography. Hopefully, you see a huge difference in your map compared to what's on the board now. And if you don't, then that's great because you're starting off with this great wealth of knowledge of what the world looks like. But my guess is that it looks nothing like what's on the board. We're going to coach you through this, though, and by the end of the school year, you should be able to put together something that's pretty close to what's on the board. Okay, let's bring it back here. We can put our maps down and take the map up off the board, put the video up again. And right now we're going to show a video of other people who have struggled with geography. Jimmy Kimmel did this really great little skit where he went out on the street and he asked people to basically name a country. And you're going to see that you're not the only ones struggling with this, okay? So let's go ahead and play that, and then we'll come back and begin the rest of our geography lesson.
All right, now it's time for something, I don't know if this will be educational, but the president is overseas. He's visiting Belgium, England, Scotland, and then his pal Putin in Finland. It's a big trip with many important ramifications. It's imperative that America has strong relationships with and knowledge about people in other lands, and that responsibility extends to all of us, not just the president. So we came up with a test. The test is very simple. Went out on the street, we asked people we're passing by to name a country on a map. That's it. We had a map. We said, name a country, any country. And here's how that went.
Can you name any country on this map?
Honestly, my geography is so horrible. I can't name anything. Like
Try
nothing.
naming something.
Is it South Africa?
Nope.
We got the country of Asia.
Nope. That's a continent, and
Oh,
that's
oops.
Russia.
Oh, damn. I'm silly.
That's okay.
Man, it's been a while since I've been in school.
That's okay. Any country on the map.
Africa.
That's a continent.
Country. Damn it.
How about a country in Africa?
I know South Africa's over here somewhere.
No, it's
No, it's
south.
down here, yeah.
Yeah, it's south.
Oops.
Can you name any country on this map?
Yeah. Africa?
That's a continent.
Oh, God.
Can you name any countries in Africa?
God, no. Who knows stuff like that?
Can you name any country on this map?
Yes. Africa.
That's a continent.
Oh, country.
Greenland or Iceland or something?
That's Alaska. Any country.
No.
And on the entire map.
This is so horrible.
Where's America?
I would say this big one, but I'm probably wrong.
You're definitely wrong.
Okay.
Can you name any country on this map?
Oh my gosh. Shouldn't I be taught this in school?
I would hope so.
South America?
That's a continent.
Oh my god.
How about a country in South America?
Yeah. Honduras is here.
Nope.
Here. Somewhere here.
Nope. Can you name any country in Europe?
Is this one Europe?
No.
This one?
No. Can you name a single country in Africa?
Was this Africa?
No, again, that's South America.
No idea.
Can you name a country in South America?
Okay, this is South America.
Yes, can you name a country in it?
No, I can't.
Did you go to high school?
Yes.
Did you go to college?
Yeah, that's a sad part.
Argentina, Chile, Bolivia, Brazil, Peru, Colombia, Venezuela, Mexico, United States, Canada, Greenland, Iceland, Australia, New Zealand, Papua New Guinea.
Oh, thank God. Well, if you didn't believe that children are our future before, now you do. Well done, everybody.
Okay, so we're back, and hopefully you guys are convinced that we got to learn some geography. We don't want to end up like those people on the street who are grown adults and can't find a single country on the map. You want to be more like that kid at the end who can just kind of ramble off all of them. So we're back on the agenda, and we're going to go ahead and coach you through how we're going to complete geography today. Our geography assignments are going to be posted to our weekly agenda each week, but if you ever needed to look at all of our geography stuff, you can come up to the geography page, and all of our resources are here. Okay. This would also allow you, if you wanted to get ahead, you can go ahead and do your geography notes in advance, and then of course you can study all this stuff to prepare for your quizzes. All right, let's run through it real quick. It says this year students will be learning a lot of geography. The first semester will focus on oceans, continents, and major countries. That's the first and second quarter. The second semester, which is your third and fourth quarter, will focus on U.S. states and territories. Each week, students will be assigned 2 to 3 locations, which I will post to the agenda. Students will use the tools on this page to complete their notes for the week and prepare for the geography quizzes. Follow the steps below to complete this assignment each week. Essentially, what we're going to do is we're going to review the information on the week's geography slides and complete geography notes. We're going to use the format of this template right here, which I'm about to coach you through, to take our notes. You're going to do this thing every week, every Monday. And then you're going to review your notes, hopefully 5 minutes. That's it, 5 minutes each day. And then we'll take practice quizzes from time to time. This says once a week, but depending upon the timing, we'll take as many as we can to get you guys prepared. And then by the end of the semester, you guys will be able to identify all of our countries and take a test on that. Okay? Let's take a look at the template real quick. Okay? You guys can go ahead and format your papers like this. Everyone's going to need a piece of paper. We're going to format 2 notes, 2 countries per side of paper. Okay? And you're going to create 2 sets of boxes like this. You got a set of 4 boxes here and a set of 4 boxes here. This one is going to be one country. This one is going to be another. Really simply, we're going to do it like this. We're going to put the name of the country, right, because we're doing countries. It's going to be state second semester. So for right now, we're going to do the name of the country here. It says write the name of the country and draw a picture of the flag. Draw a picture of the flag. That is for our world geography, which we're doing this semester. It'll be a school logo when we do our U.S. geography, but we're focused on a picture of the flag. And the flag you're going to find on the slide, which we're going to go through in just a second. In this box over here, you're going to do a picture of the country, meaning the outline of the country. Do the best that you can. I know that drawing is difficult for some of us, and so our flags and our outlines might not look fantastic, but again, it's about the process. It's about the effort and trying to draw it out. That's helping create this image in your head just by going through that process. Even if it doesn't look fantastic, it's important. Now down here, we're going to do some bullet points about the physical location. We're talking 2 to 3 bullet points, right? That means a minimum of 2. It doesn't mean a maximum of 3. You can go more than that, but 2 to 3 bullet points about the physical location. So it's next to, or it's in between, or it looks like. A lot of students are creative and they're able to kind of imagine a country looking like something, and that helps them to figure out where it's going to be. You're going to be tested on the location of it on a map and its characteristics. So it's important to know its physical location by what it's next to. So maybe its coast is the Atlantic Ocean, or it's next to Germany, or it borders Canada, or whatever the case is. You want to come up with 2 to 3 bullet points that help you identify where it's at on a map. Now this final box over here is student choice. And like I said, in just a second, you're going to get a slide that has all kinds of information on it. It's going to be information on its economy, on its history, on its political system, on its tourist attractions, its celebrities, the businesses that come from there. It's going to give you all kinds of information. And the student choice box is for you to add 3 to 5 bullet points about anything that you find interesting. Anything. You can take anything off of that slide and write 3 to 5 bullet points. And again, this is so that when the slide comes up, you can find those things and you can say, oh yeah, that is whatever country that is. Okay? And that's how you format your notes. I'm going to pull up the slide and we'll go ahead and reiterate that as we go through it. But before we get started, why don't you pause this video and format your paper with 2 sets of 4 boxes like this. Ready and go. Okay, hopefully your papers are formatted now and we are ready to go and take some notes. Let's go ahead and scroll on down. And we're going to open up this World Geography Slides box right here. And you can see we've got every country that we are going to do these first 2 quarters right here. So if you ever wanted to get ahead, you feel free to go ahead and do exactly that. All right. Here are the 3 we're going to do this week. We're going to do the United States, we're going to do Cuba, and we're going to do Spain. Let's jump into it. Okay, so here is the United States. This one's an easy one. Hopefully everyone knows where this one is on a map. You've already got some information here that you can start to fill in your boxes. In that top left corner box, you can go ahead and write United States. And in that top right box, you can go ahead and draw the United States, the outline, right? So you're going to do all the way around Florida, and then we're going to go around Texas. We're going to do New Mexico, Arizona, California, Oregon, Washington, across the United States, past the Great Lakes, and back up to Maine. Let's not forget, we got to do Alaska, the biggest state. Fewest people, or some of the fewest people. One of the lowest populations, rather. Mr. Danner can't talk, it's late at night. And then Hawaii, let's not forget Hawaii. All right, so you should have United States written in the top left and a rough outline of the United States in the top right. Let's go ahead and get to our slide. Here's where we're going to get the bulk of our notes right here. You've got your flag right here, so you can go ahead and draw your flag in the top left corner, right underneath where you have the United States. And then we're going to go ahead and run through some of this stuff right here. And you guys will be able to choose what you need to for that bottom right box. And then, of course, you got to make sure you do the bottom left box. That'll be helpful right here. You can kind of say Canada to the north, Mexico to the south, Pacific Ocean on the west coast, Atlantic Ocean on the east coast. That's all for your bottom left physical location box. Okay, let's get back to this part. All right, so you've got your flag in the top left box. Let's go ahead and run through this. So history, you guys are going to get a lot of that history in this class throughout the year, obviously. We're gonna start a little bit earlier than this right here. The Declaration of Independence officially is when we become a country, but we're going to give a little pretext to the story. But as far as the United States is concerned, yeah, we start in 1776, the Declaration of Independence. Some of the big moments in our history: 1865, we have the Civil War and the end of slavery. And that's kind of where we'll end this class in May, talking about the Civil War, the end of slavery, and how we rebuilt the South after the war. This part right here, 1941 Pearl Harbor gets attacked, and that begins our involvement in World War II. You'll get that part in your history class in high school. And then in 2001, the 9/11 terrorist attacks. Obviously, there is so much more to our history than these 4 dates right here. But those are some big moments in our history that have kind of defined who we are in large part. Many other things, but these are some very important dates. Let's look at our geography. Geography, meaning our land features, characteristics of our land. With 3.8 million square miles, we are a pretty large country. We are the 4th largest country in the world. The 4th largest in the world. Similar to China, 2 times larger than the EU. We are 2 times larger than the EU. The EU is the European Union. It's kind of a union of a bunch of European countries that are all committed to the same values, essentially. Coastal plains and forests in the east, mountains and deserts in the west. We've got crazy geography. Really, because we're such a huge country, we've got really every kind of geography that there is. But again, just some quick bullet points on some of the geography right here. Our economy, 18.1 trillion GDP. We've got a big economy. When the economy collapsed in 2008, the world felt it. When the United States isn't doing good economically, eventually the rest of the world is going to feel it, because we are such an important part of the world economy that it trickles down to the rest of the countries. 56,000 GDP per capita. 34% of the world's military spending. We spend a lot on our military. There's a stat. It's something like we spend more on our military than the next like 12 countries combined, or something like that. We've got a pretty bossome military. Capitalists, abundant natural resources, and high productivity. Again, that comes from us having such a large country. We've got lots of resources here. Culture. The biggest thing that we export is probably our culture, right? The world loves United States culture. We produce movies, TV, music. All that stuff's enjoyed worldwide. I mean, some of the biggest movie stars out of Hollywood. Some of the biggest music stars come right out of New York. Sports as well, right? American football, basketball, baseball. Those are all American sports that are very popular. Baseball, particularly in Latin America. Football is very American. But you know, there's plenty of people around the world who like to watch football. This is American football, not soccer football. And then basketball is popular worldwide as well. There's leagues all over the world that if you're not quite good enough to be in the NBA, you can play in overseas leagues. Tourist attractions, check them out. You know the Statue of Liberty, that's in New York City. Mount Rushmore, North Dakota. We've got the Capitol building, that's in Washington, D.C. I highly recommend everyone take a trip to Washington, D.C. It's pretty cool and pretty inexpensive to get away for a weekend. Movies, Forrest Gump is one of those really great movies that can give you some insight into 20th century America. If you ever have a chance, watch Forrest Gump. It's great. It's a really good story about the American dream. You know, this guy who has a learning disability is able to find himself in all of these amazing historical moments of history. McDonald's is quintessential American. Walmart, quintessential America. And who hasn't been to Walmart lately or eaten at McDonald's lately? Famous people that come from here. We know Barack Obama was our last president. We haven't quite updated this to get Mr. Trump on there. We do have his opponent in the last election, Hillary Clinton. Michael Jordan, some would argue, is the greatest basketball player of all time. Beyonce, one of the greatest singers, certainly. This guy, hopefully everybody knows too, Mr. Abraham Lincoln. He was our 16th president. And this guy's Bill Gates. You might not know who Bill Gates is, but you are grateful for him because he's played a huge role in developing much of the technology that you guys use from day to day. This guy owns and operates Microsoft, so your Xbox and your Windows computers. That's this guy right here. As far as cities, New York City is our biggest city. It's got 20.6 million people. Los Angeles has 15.1 million on the other coast. That's in California. Chicago, 9.2 million. And our capital is Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. is different than Washington State. Washington, D.C. is on the East Coast, and Washington State is all the way in the Northwest. So we'll talk about the difference between Washington, D.C. and Washington State, but that's going to be important for you guys to know. Okay. As far as our population, there's 324 million Americans. We've got the third largest population in the world, third to only China, who was first, and India, who was second. Ethnicity, 72% white, 13% black. Language, we speak 80% English, 12% speak Spanish. Religion, 71% Christian, very Christian nation, but 23% are non-religious at all. Of course, we've got everything in between. We've got people who followed Judaism or Islam or Buddhism or Taoism or Hinduism. We've got it all. This is the melting pot. But these are the bigger numbers right here. Obviously, there's more than white and black people here too. But these are the big numbers you'll see us highlight. The currency, we use the US dollar. And our government is a federal republic, which you guys should have learned a little bit more about last year in civics. We'll talk more about what that means as we get closer to winter break. Our leader was President Barack Obama. Again, this needs some updating. We've got to go ahead and update this to President Donald Trump. And HDI, that is the Human Development Index, I believe is what that stands for. Essentially, it's a figure that gives you insight as to how great people are living in this country. And while you hear all the time, America is the greatest country in the world, in many respects it is, but as far as this HDI, how people are living, we're 8th in the world, which is still pretty high. I mean, you can see it's ranked very high. But there are some other countries that your quality of living, the poverty levels might be a little bit better than what we've got here, but still very, very high. We're doing pretty good as far as the rest of the world. The United States, really a great country. All right. Okay, so that's the United States. You guys hopefully have your notes filled out. I've jabbered on enough about the U.S. If you haven't finished that, go ahead and pause this, wrap up the United States, and then we will go ahead and move on to our next country. Okay, so here we go. We're going to move on to our next country, and our next country is, drumroll, Cuba. Cuba. Cuba is actually just 90 miles off the coast of Key West, so it's pretty close to us. Go ahead and write Cuba in that top left box of your next set of notes, and go ahead and draw the island of Cuba in that top right box. Here's your flag right here. It looks very similar to the Puerto Rican flag, but the colors are opposite, right? In the Puerto Rican flag, this triangle is blue and the stripes are red. So that might be a way for you to remember the flag. Let's go ahead and get into it. History, claimed by Spain, or rather claimed for Spain by Christopher Columbus in 1492. That's going to be kind of where we're beginning our history. So that's why we're including this now. It's because we're going to talk a little bit about that this week. In 1898, it gained its independence, and in 1961, the Bay of Pigs invasion. 1962, Cuban Missile Crisis almost led to nuclear war between U.S. and Soviet Union, Russia. That was during the Cold War, which again, you'll talk a lot about that and the Bay of Pigs invasion in your next course in high school. Geography is 42,000 square miles, so quite a bit smaller than the U.S. It's 104th. Similar in size as Virginia, so that gives you some perspective. It's the largest island in the Caribbean and the second most populated, 93 miles from the coast of Florida, so pretty close. If you're a strong swimmer, you can make it. I believe in you. Economy, $235 billion GDP, 20,600 GDP per capita. Exports sugar, tobacco, coffee, famous for Cuban cigars, which are outlawed in the United States because of our embargo. Culture, baseball is extremely popular. You're going to find that in a lot of Latin American countries. Baseball is the sport of choice, that and soccer, of course. It's got a mix of Spanish and African traditions and is especially known for its Cuban music. Some tourist attractions, you can visit Havana. There's very little tourism in Cuba, at least from the United States right now, because we are just now starting to ease tensions between our two countries and let people actually go to Cuba, but I hear it's very beautiful. Related movies, what is this, 13 Days? Not familiar with that one, haven't seen it, honestly. But baseball is big here, right? You got Jose Fernandez. He was a baseball player that came out of Cuba. Unfortunately, he passed away in a boating accident a few years ago. Desi Arnaz, TV star. Gloria Estefan, she was a big musician with the Miami Sound Machine in the 80s and the 90s. Fidel Castro used to lead the country. Raul Castro took over after he fell ill, and they just had elections. I believe it's a really young guy who kind of is in place because of these two guys. He represents what these two guys represent. But they've got some changes going on in Cuba right now. You can see baseball, cigars. That's a big part of their culture. Havana is their largest city, and Havana is also their capital. There are 11 million Cubans living in Cuba. It's 78th in population worldwide. Ethnicity 64% white, 27% mestizo, which essentially is a mix of Spanish and Indian blood. This island, like many of the islands, were once populated by a lot of Native Americans. Language, Spanish. Obviously, they speak lots of Spanish there. Religion, 65% Christian, 23% non-religious. Currency, they use the Cuban peso. Government is communist. And their leader was President Raul Castro, but they just had an election. Some of these are definitely going to need to be updated with new leaders. But he just stepped out recently, within the last year. And their HDI, they're 67th. So remember, the United States was 8th on the HDI. They're 67th. So they're high, but not as high. And that's Cuba. All right. We're going to go ahead and move on to the next one. Get those notes down. If you need to pause, go ahead and do that. We've got one more country to go. Here we go. Spain. We're going across the Atlantic Ocean. We're going to hang out in Europe. This is Europe over here. It's a continent. And Spain is a country in Europe. Make sure you don't forget to get what it's next to for that bottom left box. You should have done that for Cuba too. I know I didn't mention that, but make sure you do that. You're going to write Spain in that top left box, and then draw Spain in that top right box. Again, for that bottom left, it's next. It borders France. It borders Portugal. Morocco's a quick skip over the channel into Africa. Here's the Mediterranean, part of Europe. Any of those would work. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at Spain's information. Here's their flag. Go ahead and draw that in the top left corner. History: 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. Right, Columbus, his voyage started a global colonial empire. He's going to be hired by Spain to go and find a route to Asia. But oopsie daisy, he is going to accidentally, quote unquote, discover America. We'll talk about that real soon, probably this week. In 1898, Spanish-American War. 1939, General Francisco Franco became dictator. And in 1978, restoration of democracy. So they are a democracy now. Geography, they've got 195,000 square miles. That makes them the 52nd largest country in the world, 4th in Europe. So they are smaller than France, but larger than California. That says something. California is pretty large. Mountainous country, including the Pyrenees range in the northeast. They've got $1.7 trillion in GDP, 36,000 GDP per capita. International tourists spent $57 billion in 2015. So clearly tourism is going to be a big part of their economy. You can see down here, Goofy Mr. Dumas has visited Spain. I have yet to go. That is up there on my list of the next few places that I want to visit Spain. Do the running of the bulls, visit Barcelona. It'd be beautiful. Culture. Colonialization led to 427 million native speakers worldwide. So Spanish is everywhere. They kind of exported their culture, and that's why Latin America speaks a lot of Spanish. And even here in the United States, we get a lot of Spanish. Football, meaning soccer over there, is their biggest sport. Basketball is big as well. Tennis and Formula One, which is a type of racing, the Indy cars. That's popular over there. Big movie that came out of there, Pan's Labyrinth, a few years ago, was up for an Oscar. Pretty cool. These are some of their soccer teams: FC Barcelona and Real Madrid. And then They also have some really great artists that have come out of there. Pablo Picasso, who is famous for his Cubism art. It's kind of modern. It was different when it first came out, but now he's one of the most popular or famous artists. Really, I imagine that you guys have probably heard of him. Salvador Dali is my favorite artist. This guy is crazy. He's got a cool mustache. Got a really neat museum in St. Petersburg, Florida here, but he's out of Spain. He's the guy, if you've ever seen like the melting clocks, that's his work right there. Rafael Nadal, he's one of the best tennis players in the world. We've got the Gasol brothers who have played in the NBA. They're some pretty good basketball players. And Penelope Cruz, she's a famous actress from Spain. Madrid is their biggest city. It is also their capital, you can see, with 6.2 million people living there. Pretty important. Barcelona, also a big city, 4.7 million. That's where a lot of people are going with this tourism over here. A lot of people go to Barcelona. In fact, my parents will be going to Barcelona in like a week. 46 million Spaniards, which is the 29th largest population in the world. Ethnicity, 90% are Spanish. Language, 74% Spanish, 17% Catalan, which is it's like a region of Spain that speaks a slightly different language, operates a little differently than a good portion of Spain. Religion, 94% Roman Catholic, so Catholicism is going to be the big religion there. 94%, that's pretty big. Currency is the euro. Because they are part of the European Union, they use the euro, which is the currency that you can use in a lot of European countries because they kind of all agreed to do that. Government, they are a constitutional monarchy, so they have a king and queen, but they do have a constitution that they have to follow. Their prime minister is Mariano Rajoy, again, probably in need of an update. I think they just had an election there. And their HDI, 26th in the world, very high. So they're not quite as high as the United States, but they're better than Cuba with still a very high status. So pretty good living over in Spain as well. All right, that's going to do it for this week's geography. You guys go ahead and wrap up your notes. If you need to go ahead and go back through these, I'm sure Ms. Betts or whoever is here today will not mind going ahead and putting that on the board. But go ahead and take care of those notes, and I'll see you hopefully tomorrow and Wednesday. All right, be good, ladies and gents.